in a bid to get it right in our political process and also to make sure that we are able to get, humongous amounts of money to pursue our humongous projects as a country, there's need for us to look at what is available within the treasury of the country. And if it's not enough, that's when a country could basically embark on borrowing. The Debt Management Office has said that as at March 31st, Nigeria's debt profile got up to 121.67 trillion naira. And that, as it is, will also juxtapose it with the statement credited to the president, Bola Tinubu, where he said that the burden of the debt in Nigeria is enormous and he wouldn't want to overweight the burden, with extra borrowing. And it was rather expected that the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not witness much borrowing. But just a few months after he got into office, the borrowing spill continued. And we also got huge trillions, over 20 trillion naira, since he came on board in order to fund the 2024 budget. What are the risks involved in this borrowing, and what is happening to the diversification of the economy? What could be the resultant effect if government does not stop borrowing but continue in the spree? And what is the government doing with the monies being borrowed in order to recapitalize and, of course, make sure that we are able to have much to export rather than to consume? Joining me on this, I still have my guest, the senior pastor of Sword of Liberation Bible Church, Bishop Austin Igbasa. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And also I still have the author and public affairs analyst, Frank Ahilson. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, same here, quite a pleasure.
All right. Let me start with you, Bishop Austin Igbasa. Now, a whole lot of policies have been brought up by the president, and it was expected that his administration will not talk much on borrowing monies, to fund the budget. But as at the time he hit the ground running, he also embarked on this borrowing spree. And Nigerians seem scared that at 121.67 trillion naira, that's a whole lot. That is enough to, affect the growth of the economy, most especially when what is being borrowed seems not to be for what is expected as regards recapitalization.
We must also look at where the president of the country met the country as at the time he came on board. We should also forget that the last administration, they built up on printing of naira as if you are printing tract or you are printing handbills. Don't forget that the way the economy of the country was managed before the man came on board, the country is almost run agrounded. And I want to say this, that considering the kind of person President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, I will say that we will not expect him to start manufacturing money to run the government of the day. He has taken some decisions, and I feel that those decisions may look very, very harsh. But the person coming on board, considering his antecedent, this person is not a person that is trained to act of governance or someone that is trained to accounting or this area of administration of the country. So we cannot, as at the time he met the country, we cannot expect him to start looking for money to be able to run it. There is need to borrow. And I said that it is not wrong to borrow as a leader, but what to borrow the money for is what is very, very important. There are projects that you cannot run alone, that you needed to borrow money and put it. But what is important is that what was it meant for? How the money was being utilized. Because considering the kind of government we had in place before, the recovery of the looted fund were all looted back again. Because as at that time, we didn't expect the level of borrowing at that time, because there was recovery of a looted fund and being repatriated, both the one outside and the one within the system is being brought back. But we saw that the level of mismanagement that happened during that time. Look at money that was meant for Nigeria Air. That some of us complained that time. But at the end of the day, Ethiopia Airline was brought and repainted in Nigeria's color with the Ethiopia registration number, as if everybody in the country does not know what it takes to have a registration number of an aircraft.
You are making a reference to the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari.
By the grace of God.
Who was also of the APC.
We are not talking, see, when we talk about, we have gotten to a place in Nigeria that we should be talking about individuals. We should be talking about individuals. So, and that is why, when we begin to look at individuals, we'll be able to run what we want to run as a nation. I give you an example. Buhari is an retired army general. But what were the things we're seeing in the sit at home? Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not a retired general. But within how many weeks was he able to make some dangerous decision and took some things in place today that we know what we are losing every Monday. You don't enter the East. We know what I've been able to achieve within this system. Yet the man is not a trained soldier. So what is important is that we have the individual involved. So let us it's like when we talk about we have a lot of people who have ruled in this state, but we have somebody that came on board that stabilized some things and put some things in place. You don't rate him by the party he was before. Our governor of this state was in APC. He performed well. He came back again to PDP. And what is important is about the personality, the persons that we are talking about. So you can't remove leadership from the person. Even though if you enter a party that is a Holy Ghost party, if you don't have Holy Ghost, nothing will happen. So if we put these two leaders side by side, we know that one has been around for a long time. One fought for democracy. One fought against autocracy. One was open to every person. Look at, even when he has not come on board, look at our ASU problem. He already had meeting with them. Look at student loan as we are talking. Look at discussion going on with the leaders in education, not to allow our children to stay at home for another years.
But you are saying all of this. Are you looking at the economic hardship? Are you looking at the inflation rate that is at a galloping rate at this point? Let's get your perspective.
What I'm saying is that there is nobody, all of us prepare that when they take, all the people that contested said they will remove subsidy. And every economist know that you cannot remove subsidy and things will remain the same. That there is a curve that we need to go through, the pain. The area I'm looking at is that the act of governance must be cut. That expenses of government should be cut to BRS minimum.
Exactly the direction I'm going, because at the point where he came on board, a lot was expected as regards him having a lean government for efficiency. But it seemed even longer than the previous administration as regards the appointments of persons assisting him hitting the ground in the administration. What do you make of that perspective?
You said it quite. It's not just larger. It's actually the largest in not just the history of the Fourth Republic, but dating back to the First Republic, where the president appointed 48 ministers, even when we have 36 states. I appreciate Bishop's perception of the president. It's great, no doubt. I equally appreciate the president on certain notes, especially from the standpoint of being about the only privileged person from among those who were within the Nadiko fold, who were fighting for restructuring in the sense, rule of law, democracy to be entrenched, to now emerge as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It doesn't just come from that platform. Because it wasn't just a member of Nadiko, it was a major financier of Nadiko. We've heard from so many stalwarts. I listened to Professor Bolaji Akiyemi. I've listened to Wole Soyinka. So many persons talk about, in fact, that he even sold his house in the UK at some point in time to finance the struggle. So he has some records that are quite enticing.
Fantastic.
Fantastic, if you say so. But I equally find it challenging that amidst this demeanor of being quite kindly disposed to the concept of nationhood from that standpoint, I feel that is unduly materialistic, somewhat ostentatious, without reflecting the sobriety required of that high office to send a signal for others to follow, that the beauty of life is not in the extremity of the material content. Why did I say this? As rich as he was, Lateef Jakande was governor of Lagos State from 1979 to 1983. He won his second election, his return election, but of course, Buhari interrupted it with his coup. Now, within the time frame that Lateef Jakande was governor of Lagos State, go and see the wonderful things he did. Lateef Jakande stayed in his personal house. He built more than a decade ago in Ilupeju. Yes. As rich as Lagos State, the federal capitals at that time, he didn't want to bother the state with the burden, even if they could afford it to the extreme of catering for his existence when he already has a house in Lagos State. So there was no need to be maintaining another house. So the state government needed not to spend extra money to maintain his apartment. I'm just making a reference. But the same man who was a fighter for democracy, coming back to our present president, see where I say I have my challenge about his personality. He became governor of Lagos State. Everybody knows that he's a damn rich man. I'm not sure there's a proper yardstick by which his wealth can be quantified. In fact, some people say he's called Lagos. In fact, I had a senior friend, he's late now, a former military general, who told me about an encounter where they went to meet him. That, in fact, it's not that he's called Lagos, he calls himself Lagos. That himself and that they were downstairs, and when they got to, they had an appointment with him, then he was, I think, governor of Lagos State, and that's a long time ago. That when they got there waiting, that the person that was going to call him said he was going to call Lagos. And he couldn't really construe it until when they finished meeting with him, and he said, the guy said, Lagos needs to rest. I'm just saying that, I heard that from him. The guy is late presently, and he was a senior military chieftain. Now, with that capacity, when I use this word, they call him Lagos, or he calls himself Lagos, it's from the standpoint of the spread. When we go to Lagos, they say somebody like owns Lagos. It's from that standpoint that people feel that he seems to have a hold on the political structure because of his financial reach. Now, as rich as he is still the one that introduced the error, what I tag contemporary political criminality, that is against extant laws, but he passed it. When he was living as governor of Lagos in 2007, the pension bill that Lagos State government, because he served for 8 years, he begged the people to serve them. He was supposed to be a servant. After serving them for 8 years, he did serve them for 10 years. I saw occupied by the normal public civil service rule. After a certain number of time, you can be entitled to pension and gratuity. Just 8 years of being in charge of billions upon billions of taxpayers' money. You now say that they must build a mansion for you in Lagos, build another one in Abuja. Lagos has no line of proximity with Abuja. Yet, he made that law, it was approved, buy multiple cars, change them every 2 or 3 years, expenses paid for treatment abroad. I said, okay, this man is a billionaire that can even spend his money for this state. Why is such or such? That's what I'm trying to establish a bit of contradiction about his personality that concerns me. And when he did that, other states now followed. Fortunately, of late, Nigerians have woken up. You know, I've always maintained a perspective. Now, one of the greatest tragedy of our evolution as a nation state in Nigeria is the fact that most of us in Nigeria are tolerant victims. And when a nation is peopled by citizens who are tolerant victims, even the devil can present about them and they will rejoice to stay in hell.
Okay, you seem not to admire his policies, or
no,
you seem not to admire
his policy.
The extravagance.
I started by stating some wonderful sides from the standpoint of being a democracy fighter. Okay. But I now said I was concerned about the incoherence or the seeming imbalance in terms of materialism. And materialism is not wrong because he has the means. I'm sure he can buy Nigeria if he wanted to buy it with his personal cash. So why burden taxpayers to so do? See those ebullient stuff. He had houses in Abuja before. Why did he say to buy $1 billion house from him in Abuja? I compared it with Latif Jakande, who did not even allow Lagos State to maintain a house. There was a house, but he did not need for maintenance. I already have the one I'm staying. Why attempt to maintain to where my own is already good? That's the contrast I'm drawing. Other state government follow suit. But of late, some people are now upturning it because it's against the law. For people to come and serve, they were elected to serve, all of a sudden, you now want to extract hundreds of millions and billions from taxpayers who are suffering, who can barely feed. Now, coming down to his policies, there is a mountain of distortion in the entire network. Why did I say so? Tinubu did not remove subsidy. When I watched his speech on the day he was sworn in, I said, but this was not necessary. Though even people have, it has been affirmed by even his own folks that that piece was not part of the speech. Subsidy was removed by Muhammadu Buhari. The budgetary provision for subsidy was to elapse on the 30th of June. From 1st of July, there will be no subsidy. He was sworn in on the 29th of May. Fortunately or unfortunately, by the records within the oil sector in the NNPC, Even before Buhari left, government was not paying subsidy again. Even when it was budgeted in 2023 to end on the 30th of June 2023, it was budgeted for the 2023 budget. The records show that from January till Buhari left, there was no provision for subsidy payment. So subsidy was as good as gone. So there was no need to come and make that banter statement.
Okay.
Because in governance, you have optics. Whatever you say could make impact on the system. He made that statement and the price increased suddenly without a relation to the normal market forces. The other policy he embarked upon, the devaluation of the Naira, it's unfortunate because for me it wasn't properly managed. Because whatever decision government takes, you must weigh the costs, count the options. I made reference to a number of countries. Just about a month ago, Japan, the central bank of Japan, the guy in charge, they had to start defending the yen. That is Japan. Japan was the second largest economy until China overtook them about less than a decade ago. They became the fourth largest economy after Germany overtook them a year and some months back. But I'm sure they won't bounce back. Now, Japan at that level, they are defending their currency. Now, that is Japan where productivity is almost 100%. The cost of, in fact, the challenge they even have now is that if you want to borrow money in Japan to do business, the interest is almost zero. So now you now come to Nigeria, where we are import dependent. Even water that we drink, we import water in this country.
All right.
Then you liberalize the currency to put it at the mercy. Okay. I don't like Buhari, but I watched an interview he had with Christian Amanpour, and he told Christian Amanpour that no, we won't try it. When Amanpour suggested it, he said no, we don't have the capacity to rival the other nations. Even nations that have the reach are still developing their currency. Even China, the second largest economy in the world, the headquarter of production the world over for the past a decade or more.
Okay.
China now, still doesn't have a floated currency.
If we continue in this spree, we don't know how much Nigeria will be owing at the end of the year 2024. Now, many persons are saying that the government under President Bola Tinubu seems not to care about how to save money, or not to care about how to avoid, increasing Nigeria's debt. Now, what do you make of this, coupled with what he said as regards the unattended attitude of the style of his administration in having a lean government?
That area of having so much people, I think one of the reasons is to be able to so that people can be able to do the work to the grassroots. I feel when you remember the time of when Fashola was handling about 3 major ministries, and he is a lawyer handling power, housing, and which other housing, power, and works together. So you see that the performance of the man will not be to the grassroots because of the level of the work and the enormous work at his disposal. Now, people come around and they can be able to tell all kinds of lies to the man because they know he's not a thorough engineer. If you look recently, you see an interview where Minister of Works, Engineer Umahi, was having a discussion at the East-West Road, and the white man that was even handling the project there read secretarial study. And what the guy said, take this clay. Why are you people feeling this sand? Why are you using this sand? You people bidded for sea sand for filling, and now you are putting clay. And the service engineer who is from Ministry of Works is standing there to supervise it. The man said, pack the clay. The Oyinbo man packed the clay, and the minister started pouring bottled water on his hand until there was no sand again in his hand. And he asked the man, said, this is what will happen to what you are putting here. Why are you putting this? Why you bidded for sea sand? Now, there are President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I don't have fear that there is going to be a continued borrowing. We have seen some projects that are going on left, right, and center. I give you an example of Lagos Calabar project that have been on ground that is running. Now, when you look at some of these projects that are being marked and that they are continuing to work on them, look at Abuja rail line that within a short time. This man, I believe very strongly that I don't have the fear that there is going to be a continuous borrowing. Now, like you said about ministries, if you look at some of the man set a benchmark. We have a president before for 8 years that people were sitting as minister. Even we from here, we shouted when Baba Che, the contract of grass cutter. We wrote petition, we did protest. The man was not listening to anybody. Look at how many years the chief of army staff, all of them served. When we are not seeing manifestation, the man kept quiet. The same man who told us that he's going to solve security problem that time, but retired. When he retired, he said it will take 20 years. But while he was sitting down, he said, we are going to conquer them in 3 days, in 4 days. Now, you are, if you look at some of the things, like some of the things we are seeing right now, there was an interview recently that they sold helicopter. The helicopter was sold, even without due process. You can only see this kind of thing coming out under a sitting president that knows what he's doing. Those things ought to be swept under carpet. You saw the Air Force asking the question that we even pleaded that we needed this, and the people for their hand. So with what is going on, sir, with what happened that day, the man summoned them, said, everybody report in Abuja. Why are you putting this on here? But we don't see those kind of things before, because when you put square peg in square hole, when you take somebody who's out of Nigeria to a place, he might not distribute what is nitrite, what is cistern, what is this. Any terminology you give to him, since he's a layman there, he will clap for you and walk away.
Okay, if what you are saying is right, and now at present, even on Over the News, we are hearing reports of fear, long queues in filling stations in Lagos State, and we just hope that it won't be an infectious effect on other states. Otherwise, that again will bring about inflation rate increasing, and that could also give room for more borrowings by the federal government. So aren't you bothered that there seems not to be a grip in governance in terms of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration in tackling all of these issues that has to do with increasing debt?
I think there's a grip. But the issue is that you heard Dangote the other day say the drug barons are junior to the oil barons in Nigeria. So when you hear somebody at that capacity telling you that drug baron say they are junior, they are like a crutch, where we are talking of oil baron, it tells you some persons sat down and they are making sure that even this government will not work. Seeing the direction that the man is going, for that man at that capacity to look at, after that, few days later, you saw that the man set up a committee on tackling the market. As I tell you, now, we talk about things skyrocketing. Let me give you an example. During Salah, they sold RAM at 350. A day after Salah, it returned to 120. Is it Bola Ahmed Tinubu that, what has happened within that? We talk about price control. We talk about we ourselves as a nation making sure that the government of the day is not working. But like I said to you, the man has experience of what it takes to govern.
Okay, thank you.
And I expect a better action from him.
Thank you. I take that as your closing remarks on this segment. Let's get your closing remarks on this in 30 seconds.
You see why I say you're oppressing me? The security bishop spoke for almost 7 or 10 minutes. You're not giving me 30 seconds to give my closing remarks.
It's counting.
Is that justice? The struggle has commenced already. Now, why I concur with sending fundamentals, because in the course of my discourse earlier, I didn't even speak on the debt proper, which is the thrust of this session.
Yeah.
And so, but you told me some time to highlight it too. Now, when he came on board,
we can do that in subsequent.
No.
Just wrap up in 30 seconds.
Jesus Christ.
I've extended it. You already have almost a minute.
When he came on board, he made the debt at 87 trillion. The debt office put forward their record as at that time, the first quarter of 2023, going through the second quarter. Now it is increased to around 21 trillion from 87 trillion. Now, there's something I will appreciate about what he did, in being fair. If you extract the debt in the spread, he's actually not borrowing so much from outside compared to the previous administration. There's some tact in the approach, but that's not to say that they are not borrowing quite.
Okay.
But in terms of the foreign component, it is declining.
All right.
But that still is not an excuse, because there's so much wastage in this climb. Why resort to borrowing? See the issue of something you talked about just now. I said something on this platform not too long ago. There are so many times government opts for resolutions that are simply cancerous.
Thank you.
Oh, you didn't let me learn. It was very important.
You learned in the subsequent edition of this.
No, it is a danger. Big thanks. Nigerians should know this.
Big thanks, Frank Eyosun, for taking our time.
It's a subsidy fraud.
Big thanks, Bishop Austin Igbasan.